Greetings fellow gorehounds and welcome back to another Blood Splattered vlog. So as my 2016 catch-up has been going on, I've been getting a lot of comments about this movie Under the Shadow finally hitting Netflix. Now this is a movie I heard about earlier last year. It's some sort of Iranian horror movie that is in the vein of the Babadook and was getting a whole lot of awards at festivals and stuff. So naturally, I really wanted to see this movie, and when I heard from all of you that it was on Netflix, I finally got my chance to see it, and holy shit, this is a really solid movie. I almost feel bad, like most of these catch-up vlogs have been pretty fucking positive. I mean, one of these movies is bound to be shit, but this was another solid one. And needless to say, this is gonna make my top 10 list really complicated when I finally get down to finishing it. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, Under the Shadow is a horror movie in the same vein as The Babadook in that it's about a mother and daughter being stalked by this mysterious being inside their apartment building, but the twist is it's set not only in Iran, but also during the Iran-Iraq War of the 1980s. So not only is it a period piece, it's set during a conflict where they're literally living in an apartment where bombs are being dropped on it like every other day. So this is not one of those movies in which, you know, your happy suburban home is infiltrated by this mysterious being and that's the scariest thing in the movie. No, the scariest thing in the movie is the fucking war happening outside. Though I will say, the mysterious being definitely makes it way more complicated, and that's for damn sure. This is another one of those really slow burn horror movies that really picks up in the final act, but everything leading up to it is absolutely important, so you gotta keep paying attention. But the other thing I really like about the first part of this movie is that it does a really good job of setting the stage, i.e. it does a really good job of letting the audience know what Iran was like during that period of time and why it was extra frustrating if you were a woman or a mother. And also why, unlike an American horror film, when you keep saying, oh, why doesn't she leave, there's really good reasons why she doesn't in this movie. And I'll get into some of that when I get to the spoilers, of course. But yeah, I found myself really invested in this mother. I really fucking wanted her to succeed, not only in her life goal, which is not really even the main plot of the movie, but it is a subplot of the movie, but also in saving her daughter from whatever this thing is that is frightening them. I even really like the little girl in this movie. She's even more likable than the boy from the Babadook, though I have heard from some people that the boy from the Babadook really was their barrier to entry with that movie, and I didn't have as much of a problem with him, but if you had a problem with him, you will not have a problem with this little girl. She is way more likable. And I really like the monster in this movie. It is not something we normally see in American horror movies, and it's done in a way that only someone from that region could possibly have brought to life. And yes, I will also reveal what the monster is when we get to the spoilers. Hold your horses. But yeah, there's a lot of creepy imagery in this movie, there's a whole lot of suspenseful sequences, and while there are a couple jump scares, they legitimately got me. Like, I jumped out of my seat. Now granted, I was wearing headphones and watching on my computer in the dark, so maybe if I was watching it in a different circumstance, it wouldn't have got me as easily, but I definitely jumped out of my skin. Like, this movie actually frightened me. This movie's really fucking good, I really like it, I highly recommend it, and hey, if you have not seen an Iranian movie before, then why not start with this? It's a solid movie. It's worth a shot. Anyway, my fellow gorehounds, with all that said, let us move on to the spoilers. Okay, so basically this movie starts off with this woman who you don't realize is a mother at first. You first see her trying to get into this university, and it's revealed that when she was younger, she was a leftist activist, and because of that, the university refuses to let her back in and finish her studies, which is a problem because she really wants to be a doctor, but she can't be a doctor if she can't attend this university. And it's made very clear that the reason why she can't enter this university is because of a regime change that happened during this war, and it doesn't go into too many details about that, but there is a text crawl at the beginning that makes it clear that that's what happened. So this woman goes home crying, obviously heartbroken because her dream has just been crushed. We then meet her daughter, and then we meet her husband, and it's obvious that this household overall is way more Western than all of Iran, to the point where they even have a VHS player, which is something forbidden in Iran at the time and would have been confiscated by the government had they known. And it's really funny because mainly the only thing she plays on the VHS player is a Jane Fonda workout video that she, you know, works out to. But I mean, even that would be forbidden there because during this time, women were supposed to be all covered up. And Jesus Christ, that is an aspect of that part of the world that I really despise. The whole, like, making women cover up and just, like, shaming their own bodies. Like, that is just fucking disgusting and so dehumanizing to me. And it added a very good layer to this movie because now she can't even run outside if a ghost is haunting her or something like that, because if she does, she'll be arrested by the authorities because she wouldn't have been covered up when she was inside. Which happens at one point in this movie and makes it very clear why during some sequences she stays inside when she should probably be running outside. I'm kind of glad that this kind of story is actually being told right now, because stories from that region we really don't tell very often. We usually tell the stories of like the American going to Iraq or Iran. We don't really tell a story about Iraq or Iranians themselves, which is why this movie is such a breath of fresh air, even if it is very dark and depressing. So anyway, as the movie goes on, creepy things start happening throughout the house, and the daughter ends up contracting this weird fever that doesn't seem to want to go away, and it seems to be linked somehow to her losing her doll, which in the movie is obviously a combination of her doll and her imaginary best friend. But it turns out her imaginary best friend might actually be more than just the doll. It might actually be this entity that took her doll and is now trying to suck her soul out. And as the movie goes on, it becomes clear that some people within this apartment building are convinced that a djinn, a fucking djinn, is haunting this place and that it came in on the winds. The little girl hears this from a boy who's supposedly mute but apparently talks to her, and the mother hears this from the woman who's taking care of that boy, and the reason why she's taking care of the boy is because the boy's mother and father died during the war. And one of the things that they learn is that if the djinn steals one of your things, then it can find you anywhere, and the only way to escape its hunt is to retrieve your item that it took. So you have this double-sided conflict. Outside, bombs are being dropped, she could be arrested for not being covered up as much, while inside, she has this thing that's trying to steal the soul of her daughter, and eventually steal something of hers. And the thing it steals is one of the books she had from her courses when she was learning to be a doctor. She gave all the rest away at the beginning of the movie when she couldn't, fulfill her dream, but she kept this one book that was obviously very important to her, like the one part of her that was still attached to fulfilling her dream. And the fucking djinn takes it. The motherfucker just fucking snatches it from her and then gives her the doll back, so the daughter's fine, but now the mother's fucked.
It's almost as if the djinn was a metaphor for Iranian misogyny the whole time. But what do I know? I'm just a guy who kills hobos every other episode.
And as this is all going on, we get some really creepy ass sequences. There's a sequence where she tapes up this window that has been damaged from the bomb dropping on the place like earlier that day. She has a dream where she goes to like try to fix it when the tape has been removed and a fucking hand reaches out and fucking grabs her by the throat. That shit was that was one of the jump scares that absolutely got me. But like that is child's play compared to what happens later in the movie when at one point she thinks she hears her daughter yelling and screaming for her under the bed, and she goes to reach out for her and pull her out from under the bed, and the daughter's face lifts up and her face is just one giant maw. It's a giant mouth, a fucking rows of giant teeth just going ah. Holy shit, that was one of the freakiest fucking things I've seen this week, and I've watched some pretty good horror movies this last week. That was fucked up. And then later on in the movie, the djinn straight up snatches her daughter, and then she has to go search for her inside the djinn's robes, which is like this maze of this like checkered tarp thing that I guess is supposed to hide what the djinn actually looks like, but we never get a good look at what it looks like. The closest we get is that maw, which was fucking glorious. Oh my god, I fucking love that maw. You could say it was a grand maw. And at one point she rolls over and there's a guy in bed that seems to be her husband, but then she realizes her husband was sent off to war, so he couldn't possibly be there. And the thing like grabs her and fucking like starts wrapping the fucking like bed sheets around her, which was a scene that felt the most like the Babadook. Actually, the whole finale with her running through the djinn's cape to get her daughter felt very Babadooky as well. Babadooky. But yeah, like I said earlier, this is a really fucking good movie. If you like the Babadook, if you like movies like that, if you like foreign films from unique countries, then hey, check out Under the Shadow. It is a solid fucking movie. I highly recommend it, and it is one more movie that is gonna make it really hard to pin down what my 10 favorite movies of the year were. Anyway, my fellow Gorehounds, as per usual, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch y'all later.